Hello and welcome back to Aging Well. We're continuing our discussion today on things to do when you're turning 65, which has had a lot to do with Medicare and Medicaid. I have two experts in the studio with me today, Corrine Lofchie and Jen Shaw. And yeah, let's get right back to it. So, understanding the rules of Medicare. So what happens if you don't enroll in Medicare? Because we were just talking about the different, you need to do it here, you need to do it there. What happens if you don't?
Yes, and we see this a lot too, unfortunately, because people don't know that they need to. So, because no one's gonna call you up and let you know that you do. So, in most cases, you will have a penalty. And it's a substantial penalty that stays with you for the rest of your life. So that's why it's so important. So but there is one major exception to that, which is if you're working. If you're 65 or older, but you're still working and getting health insurance through your employer, you don't have to enroll in Medicare. So if that's the case, or your spouse is working and you're getting on their group health insurance, so you or your spouse. But if it's a retiree plan or COBRA or anything else that you're getting health insurance through, you still need to enroll in Medicare and pay that Part B premium. Otherwise, so the penalty is like a 10% per year that stays with you for life.
Thanks.
You usually see a notice that comes out from your HR department if you're still 65 and working, and it says that you're on a Medicare qualified plan, and so that you have that. It's like I had it in our benefits paperwork this year.
Okay.
So everybody had the form; it was ready to go, and then I can also send it out if it ever needs to be used by anybody at the age of 65.
So you get on a separate insurance plan that's like, so you're on Medicare and then you have.
No, I've had employees, like the seniors who work with us.
Yes,
Corrine, I just send out the notice. We all it's just a blanket notice to all of us.
Yeah.
So if it was for me, it just basically says yes, this is qualified.
I see.
We're good to go.
So they don't have to get on Medicare while they're still working.
That's right.
Got it.
So your HR person should be able to tell you that.
Yes, that's correct. Usually most people who are hitting that 65 age period, they'll come down to you. They're like, I just got this notice. I need to ask you these questions. Is that correct? You're like, yep. And then you just answer those questions.
Right. Okay. And then they can wait. And so then once they retire, though, Medicare gives you 8 months. So it's good. Like, it's not like you have to do it right away, but you have 8 months to enroll in Medicare without a penalty.
Good to know. And are there some surprises out there for Medicare coverage that people might not expect? A few items that may not be covered that you would think maybe would be?
Right. Yes, there are. We see this a lot. So again, because Medicare is was created a while ago, there are certain things that weren't part of it that they've been slowly adding on coverage, but there's still no coverage for things like routine vision and hearing care, as well as dental. There's really no dental. You can buy now. There are some products that you can purchase to kind of fill in those gaps, but if you just have Medicare, that's not covered, like eyeglasses, no dental at all.
Wow.
Yeah, dental is a big issue. We get that a lot as a problem for people. And then, a lot of people, again, think long-term care is covered by Medicare, like if they're, need to go to a nursing home long-term or need services at home. That's not, Medicare does not cover any of that. So that is the Medicaid, the Mass Health that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. To get long-term care, you'll see larger companies like Mass Mutual, they'll sell plans that people can buy that'll cover the long-term care. You can just go out into the marketplace and look for that. Certainly, Corinne's absolutely right about the dental and the eyeglasses. If an employee approaches me, I always tell them as an HR person, if this is your last year of employment, I want you to go ahead and look into maxing out your FSA for that year. Get your glasses, get your dentures. Let's get the big purchases out of the way when it comes to that health insurance stuff.
Yeah.
I always tell them to do that because an FSA, which is pre-tax dollars, you can put into a pre-tax account your employer typically sets up for you is a good way to pay for those things before you retire. Always buy your big purchases before you retire.
Is there anything else that people should know about Medicare coverage? I know we've covered a fair amount of ground, but is there anything else they should know?
Not that I can think of. No. Nothing.
How about we'll go back to an HR question. Say you have a couple where a spouse is retiring and one is still working. What's the best way to approach that situation?
Well, both of us will answer this together. So typically when I've had employees who retire, one's still working and they have a spouse at home, I can't tell people this. I always tell them, please contact an attorney because it will impact Social Security draws. So contact an attorney because I always tell them you have to choose wisely. And I think it's like you have to do it joint. There's a way in which you choose it so it doesn't impact the employee that's still working.
For your Social Security, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Social Security, we that is a whole nother area.
That's another area.
Right, that I am not an expert on, and I always do advise people to talk to Social Security. That is very complex, like when to, decide to take your Social Security benefits. But in terms of the Medicare side of things, as long as Medicare is very individual. So unlike health insurance through an employer, which is usually like you can get as a family or a couple, with Medicare, each individual can have a completely different kind of, Medicare supplement or program. Everyone does it individually. So, so one spouse could be on Medicare and one could just switch to their individual group plan through their employer. And that might, for a lot of people, that might be the best way to go, depending on the costs of each. They'd really have to balance, look at how much am I going to have to pay with Medicare, how much do I pay with my employer, depending on how good their employer benefits are, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this is really going to test the budget of retirement because Corinne's absolutely right. When employees have a qualifying event like this, like one employee's going to retire, that employee is going to go on to Medicare. That person's premium's going to change, and I can get those people set up, and it's really simple. It's a very easy process. But again, it's going to change retirement. It's going to change assets with Medicare and Social Security and the entire retirement landscape. So again, contact a lawyer, contact a financial planner.
Start early.
Start early. Start when you're 30. Start when you're 20.
Absolutely. I guess the only other thing I'd ask, we're probably winding down, is anything else you would want to add on this discussion of things to do when you're turning 65, Medicare or Medicaid? Anything you'd want to add on that? Or HR advice for people in those circumstances?
I know you brought up, Jen, about long-term care insurance. Just briefly,
Oh,
that's
God,
a whole
yes,
other
please
topic.
do that.
But
yeah,
so that is something that I've read that at around mid-60s for most people is the latest time at which you could purchase it affordably. Which for most people, long-term care insurance is really not a viable option because it's so expensive. It's really for people, from what I've heard, we don't deal with it that much. It's for people who have at least about 2 million. I forget what the upper limit is, when you can self-fund your long-term care, but people who have 2 million or more in assets because of how expensive long-term care insurance is. So so it's really for fairly high asset people. But that's something people could look into. And in terms of, like, if you haven't done, planning around end-of-life care, power of attorney documents, those kind of things are good to do when you're earlier. They're good to do as young as possible, like we've been talking about, but it's something like if you're looking at all these issues at 65, you can kind of do it all then. And again, it's something where most people haven't done any of that kind of planning.
So from a retirement perspective, I do, if you feel safe enough in your organization to talk to your HR person anywhere between 6 months to a year before retirement, you should ask them, what are my options for benefits? If it's during open enrollment, that's when I'm going to strongly encourage you to max out your FSA. Get and max that out. And this year for 2017, it's $2,700 to max out that fund. Get your glasses, get your dentures, get it all done. Get your bridges. And then talk to your benefits person in your organization about your life insurance portability and if they have life and long-term options. Because there are sometimes supplemental programs that insurees and employees don't opt for during open enrollment that they can purchase before, and they're portable after they leave. So find out what your options are, because most larger companies do have retiree health plans, and that's an option as well. But really start planning 6 months to a year. And if you don't feel comfortable, really hit the employee handbook hard and ask questions. And make sure you use up all your earned leave and cash that out.
I wish we had another half hour to go here. We have so much to cover. You guys have been really great today. And definitely start early. If you have questions, call our Aging Information Center.
Yes.
Thanks again so much. And thank you again for joining us. I'm Nathan Lamb for Aging Well. We'll see you next time.